Hey, there we got some sound bars. So apparently Skype, you can hot plug the Scarlett, but vMix you cannot.
Yeah, they're getting no audio.
Wirecast, you couldn't as well.
You're gonna have to restart vMix.
No, it's fine now.
They say no audio.
Yeah, I just fixed it.
Okay.
I show audio going out on Wirecast over here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it can really bug it if I forget to switch my audio over and I change the main audio on the system and then the Skype audio. All of a sudden, I just lose audio until I kill Skype. It's replicable, but strange.
That is strange.
If I don't change the main system audio, just the Skype audio, no problems. Rock on, bye. I wonder if Ryan believed me when I told him we were coming up now.
Probably not.
I wouldn't.
Let's see if he tweeted.
Tweet.
Deedly-deedly-deed.
Oh, great. Now I got Rockin' Robin stuck in my head.
Perfect.
It's possible to sit up straight in these chairs.
I guess Ryan never sent us a glimpse to see where he's at, did he?
No.
Oh, we do have this funky two-shot we can go to. Look at that.
Ooh.
We're very exciting this week. I think it's because we don't have Josh.
I'm also beat.
Spent the entire day benchmarking graphics cards. Weird, huh?
That's not something you ever do. I mean,
Right.
Jeez.
These are professional ones, though, so high class.
Ew. Or are you playing with the tiling and crap like Scott was talking about?
No.
Just doing the defaults?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
There
That way you can
are
do
2
another
bottles of beer
article
in
later on about what happens when you do the tiling.
True.
More benchmarks.
This all looks too expensive to mix with Coke.
There's that Wyoming whiskey in there, isn't there?
What, Captain Morgan's?
That'll work.
Yeah, rum and a Coke. Yarr.
Rum and a Diet Cherry Coke Zero.
Yep. Classy. Yeah.
Bridge Breweries. It's called Dark Matter. It's a Caledonian dark ale, which you guys might not see.
Caledonian Dark Ale.
Seeing that Caledonia is part of Canada and don't know that it's very big down
Yeah.
there.
Can't say I've ever heard of that.
Memories.
You know there are red solo cups on top of the thing, right?
Bourbon and red solo cups. Good to see the class is still in effect.
Ryan is on his way. That's why we're buying a little bit of time to see if he shows up before we start the show. Ask me anything. Almost anything.
Almost.
Are we having a PC per AMA?
AMAA. AM.
Have you had to have anything you've 3D printed surgically removed yet?
Not yet. There's always that chance.
If you knew the
those
thing
are
10
hope.
just printed, you wouldn't want.
yeah.
You wouldn't want to have that surgically removed.
Okay, we do have this background shot here.
Um,
Can you see it there, or do you need to zoom in?
It's so small.
Well, reach up and zoom in then.
I'm good. Okay, here.
Hey, we're hard up for entertainment here. There it
Don't
is.
say hard up.
Oh. It's a bit wee, isn't it?
Well, this is the other half.
It's a nice dick butt.
So I need to glue it to this platform, which also has an MX Cherry key stem on it.
Oh, okay.
So I think Ryan's going to find that on his escape key at some point.
Nice. Immediately after you bind all of his shortcuts to escape.
Have you guys noticed how Skype looks now on the 4K monitor when we have a good connection?
No.
Look at that. It's beautiful.
Nah, it can't be.
What's
It's
that
me.
border?
Jeez.
Oh, it's just the gutter.
Yeah.
Uh,
If you zoomed and panned, you'd fix it.
well, there'll be a rundown here soon.
Yeah, when you got the rundown, oh,
Yeah.
that's fine. Where's my rundown? There's the rundown. Look at that.
Get the runs. I can't believe that Sebastian reviewed that keyboard.
Real force.
Is that the? That's not the analog one, is it?
No.
No, we haven't seen that one yet. That one
Uh,
actually sounded kind of neat.
speak for yourself. But
Yeah, well, I know he finally stalked you guys down. But no, the Firkin thing, and not to spoil it for you or anything, where did he have that?
Oh, it's got this weird. It's got that membrane hybrid switch on it, doesn't it?
oh,
yeah,
so
but
is
it's
it
got
a
a price
Topre?
tag.
Topre keyboards are expensive.
Yeah, it looks like
There
one.
it is. It's $270
Jeez.
for a
What?
keyboard. $270.
Like that's ErgoDox level cost. We were just talking about that earlier. It's like
Whatever happened to that keyboard with like the OLED?
The Optimus Maximus?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about that the other day.
Yeah, what happened to that?
It was a piece of shit.
And
Well,
it transformed
Oh,
into
yeah.
garbage.
yeah, we know it was a piece of shit.
I had one.
Is the company still in business?
God, well, sort of, maybe, probably. They
You had
don't
the
make
full
that
one?
anymore. I had a review unit.
How much was the price on the full version?
It's like $1,600 or something like that.
Jesus.
I didn't buy it. I had a review unit. Way back when I was in high school. For a shitty little website my friend and
Way
I
back.
ran.
Yeah.
Somehow, they just fucking sent it to me.
You had to send it back.
Well, when you're dropping 12 grand on an Aaron chair, I mean, you got to have a keyboard to match, right?
God, it was the world's worst keyboard.
yeah.
All of the keys had like an acrylic over them, so they're slippery and had
Yeah.
absolutely no key travel, and there was no gap in between any of the keys because obviously you wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
It was impossible to type on.
Yeah.
I had just like a shit ton of keys die. They replaced the unit, and the keys still died on the second unit. Like it was bad. I
Dead
was-
pixels are normal.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day because I started wondering if it's any more feasible now.
People are a lot more used to touch screen typing.
Fair.
I don't know. I think it'd be really weird. It's like the projector keyboard. You've seen that one, the little projector and camera that
Yeah.
will project the keyboard anywhere. You try that, it is the weirdest freaking feeling thing ever because there is zero feedback whatsoever.
Yeah. All right, here you go. You can get a 96 by 64 OLED full color display for like $12. Oh, that's quantity one. Shit.
Get it?
You can for 1,000. You can get them for $5.10 a piece from TI. All right, let's do it. Only weighs 1.4 grams. It's about 25 by 25 millimeters. Now, someone mentioned buying one secondhand. Now I'm curious.
Actually, speaking of mention, Bug Smasher.
Secondhand keyboards sound like a good investment.
That's a terrible idea.
Would you like the alfalfa flavored one or the mushroom flavored one?
Man, yeah, these things still sell on eBay. It's like, okay, they had the Optimus Maximus, which is the one they launched. Then eventually they came out with the Optimus Popularis, which is a smaller one. It's 10 keyless.
Don't recall that one.
Oh, I wonder if they still sell.
If they have a Dvorak version, I bet you they do.
Well, it's programmable.
There you go. There are people out there just buying that for that reason.
I remember the software not actually being too bad on the thing. Like you could make a movie play over it. Like you could feed it like a AVI, and it'll just start playing a movie across your keyboard. Good times.
Hurrah! HTML5 has a use again.
So Ken, are those Quattros we have on the test bench, are those GP100 parts?
They're not GP100.
Okay, Ryan says he's playing billiards now.
What?
They're not. No, they're not
Oh.
GP100. Two are GP106 and one's GP104, I think.
Yep.
Our honored guest is lambasting us for not telling him what kind of alcohol to bring in.
All
Obviously.
of the alcohol.
I'll just get expensive for everyone quick.
No, no,
Worth
there's
it.
still a tub full of bourbon over there.
It's moved.
Yeah, right there.
I had to get it out of
Moving
the
closer to the
walkways.
desk.
It's moved closer to the podcast desk and
Move
further
closer
away.
to all the expensive dual socket machines that run the entire video operation.
Yeah.
Well, hell, you wouldn't want to take it out with a cheap beer.
Are
Barrel of bourbon, on
are
the
you
other
implying
hand.
that they're
It's
gonna
part of our
catch on
water
fire?
cooling system. Input.club's K-type. Well, what is that?
Oh, I can't get it. Nope, can't get it.
Ooh, that looks like a nice keyboard. That's the issue. Is keyboards just like look nice, like these expensive keyboards, man. Well, here you go, Alex. PCB files for the Infinity Ergodox.
Ooh, the Infinity
Yeah.
Burger Docs.
Input.club
Go
is the
ahead and take
website.
it.
And design files for the case.
So how much is it, is the question. How much does it cost to put one of those together from scratch?
Probably $50 worth of PCBs. I don't know what you can get key switches for. That's the big cost, I'd
I just
imagine.
put everywhere. The price, on the other hand.
Yeah, I don't know what the price is. Oh, you need help building your Infinity Ergodox? Please look at this build guy. Don't mind if I do.
And strangely, every link leads to their store page. Well, to be honest, sometimes that's handy because it's literally the one push buy. I want to build this project. Boonk. Okay. Done.
The first link I saw for Cherokee switches, this is probably more expensive than you can get them, is 97 cents a piece for blues.
I could believe it, but I have
I
trouble.
mean, and it's not like, well, okay, wait, no. No.
Because, I mean, if you're going to sell a keyboard for $100 and it's going to have a full 10 keypad on it, or numpad on it, you're going to have to get them for cheaper than that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's not buying in volume, which is where they get you.
Well, I'm looking either to move to a 10 kilos or 60 because I don't have the space on my desk on the right side. I feel like I'm doing this. Like,
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, no, they're cheaper. If you buy 100 key switches, 100 MX Cherry Blue key switches from DigiKey, it's $74. Which, if you're gonna, like build a keyboard yourself, that seems a reasonable price to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not getting in it to make it super, super cheap, but
It's an awful lot of labor.
it's not too bad. Like, it's all panel mount through hole stuff, and it's 4 posts per key. Like,
I know.
you could chew through that pretty quickly. People put together keyboard kits as a thing.
know.
Like,
Did Ryan give us an ATK?
he should be here in a couple minutes.
It was just passing Dillard.
I think he picked up his car at the mall and was driving over here.
Are you glimpsing
Is that
him?
what Dillard's is?
Yeah, it's a department store.
Yeah, wasn't it? Did Macy's buy it and then sell it?
I have no idea.
Well, if they bought it, I bet they're selling it because they're selling a lot of stuff. I ain't even going to try that last name, Anthony, but apparently there's a guy soldering a custom keyboard while he's watching us.
That's awesome.
Hi,
There he
guys.
is.
Are you
Get out of my chair,
teabagging
Ken.
Ken with the Ryan thing?
Not intentionally.
It didn't feel very safe here. Yeah, you can buy Cherokee switches from SparkFun for 86 cents a pop for Quantity 100.
Better, but still, geez, $86, eh?
Yeah, but I mean, you're making a custom keyboard. Like, it's gonna cost you a couple $100 probably.
And a lot of time. Fair enough.
Yeah, a lot of time. You have to be very particular about what you want from a keyboard to design your own. Or just make a 40%er. Way less key switches.
I'll just do one with the vowels on it. The consonants we can do later.
Just double tap a vowel for a consonant.
Yeah. You laugh. I used to have a BlackBerry where that was literally the way you did it.
Remember the Palm OS input
Yeah.
where you'd like use the stylus to draw
Graffiti.
the letter? Yeah, graffiti. Draw the facsimile of the letter.
I was
Yeah.
really fucking quick at that.
Yeah.
After a few hours, I always wanted to take the stylus and drive it through my brain pan just to end the suffering. Really did not like Palm OS.
I would that was really handy, like on the sub, having a Palm Pilot,
Yeah, fair enough.
especially when they got to the point where they took a text-only version of Wikipedia, and like it was a compressed.
I have all
text-only
of the
version,
knowledge.
and it fit it
You
into like
downloaded the internet.
They fit it into like a gig and a half, right?
Yeah.
Of which I put
Impressive.
on my Dell Axum, which I had at the time, which also was amazing, right? But it had a SD or a CF card slot, and I had an IBM micro drive. I had 5 gigabytes in
Remember
my
when-
Dell Axum.
Remember when people were buying iPod minis to shuck the micro drives?
I didn't do that. I got the thing off of eBay or something,
Yeah.
which was probably just shucked. I mean, it had the real label on it though, so it was like,
Oh, thank God, Ryan.
there he is.
No.
Nope.
We're hot and live. Well, I know. We didn't start the show yet. Nope.
We needed our fearless leader.
You were pretty necessary for a lot of the discussions that happened in the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
Didn't you post like 2 or 3 of the things, Ken?
Like the 2 main stories we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought we put those not first on purpose.
I don't know.
20 minutes into the podcast.
Sorry, I have to get stuff off the floor.
I see. That's fine.
Should be sitting there somewhere. Yeah, there is somewhere.
Did you guys see anything done today?
I did.
There's only one voice I heard. Looking at
They
you.
haven't been here that long.
Did you have to sit at home and supervise?
Yeah,
You
listen
did.
to the pounding.
Here it is.
Well, my roof is like only 3/4 finished right now, so apparently I did.
You have a mic in?
What were you gonna do? Did you get up there with the nail and a hammer?
No.
Okay.
This week on Roofing Perspective.
I did have to go out there and yell at them a couple times about like dropping shingles in such a way that they would boomerang back and hit the fucking windows on the way down to the ground.
Yeah, the people doing the roof on my neighbor's house
Yeah.
tore up the top of my hot tub cover with
Oh,
By throwing shingles down,
throwing
right?
Shingles down.
Yeah.
yep. They're heavier than they look.
Is that a dick nut?
It's gonna be a tick butt keycap. But we didn't have super glue.
I see. For what testing? Oh, I see. I see. Now you just reach for the dick butt?
Always reach for the dick.
Okay. This is an odd conversation.
What?
Well, you walked into a podcast, so you haven't warmed up yet.
So are all the tabs brought up correctly, probably?
I guess.
Yeah.
We hope.
Are they? Oh,
Keyboard.
they're in reverse order.
Is that not how you do them?
No, mine usually go that way.
Oh. I
This-
just start from the right and go left.
This is fine. Everything's fine here.
Is that the way Chrome opens them?
Yeah, it depends on what order.
Yeah.
You start at the bottom of the list.
No, I start from the top of the list.
I start from the top of the list.
Weird.
I think it depends on how you control click on it or
I control click. Are you not control clicking? Oh,
Yeah.
you click and then go back to the tab and then click. Okay, I control click down the line.
You lack control, Ken.
Are there other people on the call?
Just Jeremy.
No, Josh?
He's sick.
Oh, poor Josh.
He's got a man cold.
It's vagina. Yeah. Okay.
So, how was the trip?
Yeah, as good as cleaning out your dead father's campground can be, I guess.
Ooh,
Yeah, not a great day.
You just made everyone who's complaining about us being late feel really
Good. They should feel like buttheads. And I obviously didn't plan on being gone the whole day. I knew it was going to be a long day, but I was literally in stopped traffic in Columbus for like an hour and 45 minutes.
damn.
Yeah, there was
Accident?
like a 5-car accident, and they shut down the highway and all that wonderful stuff.
Brian, turn your mic up a little bit.
Like that.
Yeah, that's
I
better.
think you weren't in the Tesla.
Make sure the
Yeah, if I was in a Tesla, it'd been fine.
huh?
Well, I mean, like the stop and go traffic would have been easy to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
Would have died.
No, not sitting still.
You're not using a lot of energy when you're just sitting there.
Yeah. And it was nice enough and like sunny enough that
Didn't have climate control.
yeah, like I had the windows down in the truck we were borrowing. Okay. What is it? 4:42. Today's the 22nd. Yeah.
All correct.
Words. Let's see if I can just do this. Let's see. I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 high priority emails that showed up today.
Oh, that's not too bad.
I'm sure none will show up tomorrow, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll probably be caught up. Okay, we ready? We're recording
believe
all the
so.
normal places.
We are.
All right, let's do this. 3, 2. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 442 being recorded on March 22nd, 2017. I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
And I'm Alan Molentano. Where's Josh?
Josh apparently has a man cold, which is now the new internet thing for a cold or a flu, but you complain a lot more because you're a guy about it. And
Apparently,
I think
that's a thing.
it's really a bullshit thing because it only happens to Alan that I know of. Who's like, oh, my sinuses hurt, so I can't come into work. And I'm like, take an ibuprofen and let's do this, right? Apparently, Josh wanted to use that excuse as well.
Usually
Ken and
I have to
Alex
be-
are here too.
I usually
but-
have to be like throwing up.
Oh, I don't know
call
about
it.
that.
Bullshit.
There's been a lot of messages in the Slack. It's like, no, I just got out of bed and I can't really breathe too good, so I'll just be at home.
Just be back in bed.
I've got stuffy noses to deal with. I don't know. So we're missing a Josh, but that's fine. We'll just talk about things anyway.
Make more fun of him behind his back instead
You think
of in
he's
front of him.
watching?
Yes.
Ah, damn it.
Apparently.
If you're too
No,
sick
that
to
makes
be
it
on,
better.
you're too sick to watch. No, you know. I never understood that when I was a kid, right? Like you'd be too sick to stay home, or you'd stay home from school, but you had
Not allowed
no
to
problem
watch
like
TV?
playing video games. No,
Oh.
but like you would, right?
Well, yeah.
And as a parent, I look at back, that's bullcrap.
I wasn't
right?
allowed to like play video games if I was homesick.
But no, Josh is bundled up there in a bathrobe. He's got a hot water bottle on top of his head.
Did
his
I
feet
have
in the
video
hot water
games?
Yeah, it
sink,
was
and
so
he's
long
watching
ago.
us on TV.
Yeah,
You can just
probably,
picture it,
Jeremy.
can't
I had an Atari 2600.
Also, I guess when I was a little bit older, right? So I'm talking like when my mom wouldn't stay home when I stayed home
Yeah,
from
when
school,
you were
type of
home
thing.
solo.
Obviously, she wasn't going to do anything if I was playing video games then. But yeah.
So you were home opening your
But
Christmas
now,
present.
but now,
early.
if like my kid stays home from school when she's sick, I'm gonna have cameras in the house to make sure she's not playing video games.
Ah, you're a dick.
You better be in bed. I'll tell you what. I'll let you read a book.
And then the cameras are
And
going to
that's
start
it.
talking to the kid because he's going to like start piping in with his
don't
voice.
know.
Like,
It-
Well enough to read a book, she can go to school.
yeah, right.
Oh no,
Spread-
I was allowed to read a book.
Spread
But-
this disease
because
to
you
your
can do that in
friends.
bed. If it
Kids
was
like-
anything other than that, and kid, you're going to school because you're obviously not that sick.
Yeah. But I mean, you can watch TV in bed and whatever. That was fine. That's
no,
very,
we
that's-
didn't have TVs in bedrooms.
Oh, really?
Oh.
It's a very
Again, on
passive
purpose.
thing. Well, yeah. I didn't have a TV in my. No, I take that back. I had a TV in my bedroom when I was in high school, I think. Yeah. We don't need to sidetrack anymore. I bought a 65-inch big screen TV, like when they had like the big consoles. Like
DLP?
I don't think it was before DLP. It was just a projection
Wow.
TV.
CRT
Oh,
rear
yeah.
projection. Weigh a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was
yeah.
working at Best Buy, and it was when you got great discounts on everything, right? You paid
Yeah.
5% over cost on stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember being like a senior in high school, and then I think what year did Halo come out on the Xbox? Was it
Indie
that,
something?
Was it? I thought it was maybe.
Somewhere around there.
No, whatever it was, but like there would be four guys sitting on my bed playing on this 65-inch projection TV that was literally 3 feet from us, which was great because every quadrant looked like a normal sized TV
Yeah.
for the on-screen multiplayer. So,
Guys in your bed, huh?
oh yeah, with all the lights off and the shades drawn, and lots of Mountain Dew was probably being drank at the time. So anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. We do record the show live streaming at pcper.com/live on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And you can, if you need a little reminder, if you want a little note sent to your email inbox every Wednesday to let you know that we're going to do this stream, you can go to pcper.com/subscribe and you get this page here. And all it does is it asks for your email address and your name and email address. That's all it asks for. And we'll send you a little notification when it's time to go. It looks like our screen isn't updating over here. Something like I'm scrolling and it's not scrolling on our stream. See, like if
That's
I'm
not good.
I'm streaming.
Did your connection get loose?
Let me see. I don't know the answer to that. No, it says I have a network. Do you see my Patreon page now? Because if I can't show everybody my Patreon page, oh man, what am I going to do?
Show 'em
Sometimes the preview doesn't accurately update until you add it to the thing. Let me see. It says I'm ready, 0 connections.
Yeah, it probably hiccuped.
Well, he's not connected to me, so that would be why.
Really? It's gonna be like this?
What is 18.0.0.20? That's what it says I
It
am.
does this discovery thing.
Oh, that's the version number?
Doesn't sound like an IP to me.
I mean, it's 4 numbers separated by decimal points, so it could be.
Try killing the client and bringing it back up.
I can do that. What's it called? vmix something.
Slash icon desktop.
And we were just waxing about how wonderful vMix has been running.
Okay, what about now?
I mean, I see the actual desktop.
You see this machine?
Yeah,
What happens when you add it?
nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, something's supposed to show up there?
Yeah. It's
Um,
enumerating it, but even on the display, it's not showing anything.
I can make sure there's no other process running with that.
I see Task Manager came up.
Wait, what?
Manager.
Oh, wait. Can you just capture the whole desktop instead of Chrome?
That's what I just tried there, and it's not taking
What
it.
happens if you bring up Task Manager? Can you capture Task Manager? No. Oh, yeah,
No,
it does.
there's
It does
Task
show me
Manager.
that. So.
What is going on here?
Oh, look! If I'm real quick, I can show you the stuff behind it.
Oh, this is terrible. Why is this not working?
So it's not vMix that's the issue. I don't wanna.
I know.
Yeah, you might have to close it.
Are you?
Will it? Are you sure?
Is it set to remember your tabs? Go into your settings.
Yeah, let me do that first because I
Well,
want
if you
to.
have the history, you can expand on tabs.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah.
Okay, here we go. Click.
And of course, we'll fix this in post.
Oh,
Yeah.
probably not.
Oh,
Probably
Yeah,
not.
we will.
how are you? Wait,
Okay. Now,
Alex.
what do you see?
Alex was still showing a Chrome. Oh, there it went.
There's Patreon.
I'm not even like. I was thinking maybe it has something to do with going in full screen or something, but it.
No, I mean, we ran a
Doesn't.
full screen before.
Yeah. Do you see Edge?
I see application frame host. There's Edge.
Because Ashley Olsen and her 58-year-old boyfriend have called it quits. Plus more news.
Yeah, that's working.
Cool. Wait a minute. Did we just trick it?
I think we just tricked it.
No, because now it's not showing the scrolling. So that's supposed to show the desktop, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens if you kill that whatever that?
The app is?
Yeah, why don't you kill that and restart that?
I already did that once.
Oh,
I done did it.
Hmm.
And there's no kind of odd processes running. Okay. I hate everything.
That's weird.
Okay, I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, I can kill vMix over here and restart it. Like it's not enumerating the size right. It's showing a 32 by 32.
Doesn't sound like a host issue on that machine.
No, I don't
what are
think
these
it is.
settings here? Show cursor, audio source silence,
There's-
maximum frame rate 30, use GPU acceleration. What if I turn that off? Now try it. Nope. Nothing. Okay. New request. We get a USB, not for now, but we get a USB display output and capture it directly.
Yeah, bring it in through SDI.
That might work. I would have said in the past that it wouldn't work, but we had it with
Yeah.
the video stream.
Actually, we do have that HDMI cable going to the.
We don't have the proper adapter to hook each one to that website.
Okay.
Well, I can kill vMix and bring it back up and see if it fixes itself.
Oh, that's true, because we're going to have to shut off the stream to do
Yeah,
that. Okay,
stream's
hang on,
on.
guys. We'll be right back. We'll try that real quick. Hey, look.
Does it work?
It does
It
work.
works.
It does work. Awesome.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, that's.
One application, we never had any fucking problem.
Unbelievable.
Mm,
All right, well, we'll start with this part. Are we recording again?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay.
Or
Recording
the
again.
Stream, but
One of those things. I guess I don't need to have this ping running in the background now that I'm here.
yeah, it looks framed right, doesn't it?
Yep.
You wanna
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
keep the top part there out, or
No.
No.
Just no. You frame
All
it
right.
so I can show everything. All right. Here we go. 3, 2. And obviously we have our Patreon campaign going here. If you go to patreon.com/PCPer, you get this page here. It is your ability to directly contribute to the website itself. If you think anything we do is worth a damn, whether that be Allen storage testing, this podcast, VR benchmarking, looking at Windows 10 schedulers, whatever tickles your fancy, we can do that. And anybody who becomes a patron and or increases their Patreon contribution during the show will get a shout out during the live stream, as long as I can read it on my email here. And I already have one. I've had a man cold for 3 days. Just edited their pledge to $4.99. That's a tough break if you've had a man cold for that long, because it's really severe to have it. Yeah. All
At
right.
least we're here to assuage your illness, give you something to think about.
We're going to jump through some stuff we have today. Is pretty straightforward. First up, Sebastian wrote a review of the Topre, which I believe this is the correct pronunciation, right, Ken? We figured it out after years of me having one of these keyboards on my desks. Topre Real Force RGB 108 key mechanical keyboard. This is pretty looking, of course, because Sebastian took all the pictures of it. It is the electromechanical. It was an capacitive key switch, not electromechanical. Capacitive key switch. That I actually that Topre keyboard that is sitting on the floor over there near your desk. That's one that used to be on my desk.
That was the there was a different. What was the name of that one? Something keys.
No,
Something.
it's capacitive key switches.
No, but I thought there was some kind of. It was the Topre something.
Oh, maybe I don't
Was
remember.
that keyboard.
Yeah, they have some sort of a name. I can't remember what it is.
It is a patented hybrid between a mechanical spring and a rubber dome switch, and a capacitive sensor, which combined provide tactility, is apparently a word here, comfort, and excellent durability. I did like it. It did have a very tactile feel, but was not overly loud and obnoxious. Right. So the Topre is an interesting company in terms of just how they promote and market their companies. I think you remember Seasonic was like the distributor in the U.S. for these keyboards. Topre is a Japanese company. The Real Force brand is like a sub-brand under Topre that I don't think is only sold through Seasonic anymore, but now you can kind of buy it direct. but it also adds some complications in that the like the software that you want for this isn't readily available on any easy to access website,
Oh,
right? And so
well,
like
that's a negative.
Sebastian had to go to the Japanese website and you could download a US version. It's all in English and it all works, but like the US website didn't have it. Right. So it was kind of an odd, setup there. But in terms of the keyboard itself, he definitely did like it. They have a unique, I consider, very high quality build to it. You can see kind of the key structure, like the arc
Yeah.
of the keys as well. I really liked mine, and I don't think there's a whole lot of differences in the mechanical build quality here. But it seems pretty positive. The only change is the addition of some RGB goodness, if you're into that. Here you can see the software at work, and it looks pretty straightforward. It's not required, but if you want to like do all of your customizations, you can do that. You can do
By
various,
key.
yeah, per key, and you can also adjust between some presets by just using the function, function plus insert, delete, home, end, page up, all that type of stuff, and then you can use the software to do the individual key colors, as you can see there. And then he went through, like, comes with, you can get a key spacer, you can get all kinds of, whatever odd accessories. Like this tool over here looks a little bit like,
Key puller.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not quite a spudger, but it's close.
right. So I'm trying to look at what's the on position of each key switch can be adjusted by selecting from 3 stroke depths of 1.5, 2.2, and 3 millimeters. So it's adjustable
How do you adjust it?
through these. The actuation point change, which as the name indicates, allows for adjustment of the depth at which a key press actuates a key.
And the more you excite the actuation point, the deeper it gets.
The interesting thing is that this is handled in software if you want per key control.
Oh, because it's capacitive.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And it comes
Yeah.
with foam spacers as well. So not only can the whole keyboard be adjusted for its actuation point, 1.5, 2.2, and 3.0 millimeters, but individual keys can be adjusted to any of those 3 levels using the software.
It's only like one step away from your WASD keys being like Xbox controller key buttons, like analog.
You could
buttons.
probably pull it off.
We have a keyboard in this office that you
Yes,
messed around
you do.
with that is like, it's a aim pad, right?
Yep.
That has analog key presses.
I messed around with that one.
You did. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered, but okay.
So in the end, it's not a cheap keyboard.
$270.
Holy crap!
Oh wow. Okay.
Not only
See,
is
I
it
wanted
not
you to
cheap,
talk it up all this way, saying about how quality it was before I brought up the fact it's $270.
Wait, how much was that other one you were using?
the
wasn't-
non-RGB one was probably $200, $180. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
so
it's
much.
one of those. It's probably a low production part, made by a specialized company in Japan doing
Yeah.
something very unique and different. Yeah, as Sebastian writes, the Topre RealForce RGB is a keyboard with the sole weakness of being very expensive. But if you can afford it, it's absolutely worth it. So he clearly was a big fan of what this keyboard did.
That's a lot of
So
money.
check out that review if you want a little bit more info on it. If you're a keyboard geek, like I know there are a lot of you guys out there. The next story we're going to talk about that Josh wrote up because he's lazy and he's not here. I'll talk about for him is ARM Dynamic.
I guess that's how you say that.
I was
It's
on a
not
call.
dynamic.
No, I was on a call with them. It's a
Okay.
Dynamic.
That's what I was thinking.
I was curious.
Dynamiq. And the simple part to this is we don't need to go through some of the build up here. The idea is that ARM has built a fabric that will allow you to attach any number of cores to each other, regardless of the number of cores you integrate, what kind of cores they are, size, speed, that type of thing, right? So if you look at it now, the initial ARM
Big
infrastructure was like a single core, and then you went into multi-core where they were identical cores.
Yeah.
And then you had this issue with, well, okay, we want,
You want some big cores and
based
some
on
little
design
cores,
and
right?
and process tech, we can build these high performance cores that draw more power
Yeah.
than we want, but they're necessary to get the high performance we want. And we can design these low power cores
Yeah.
that are better and SIP power and they're more efficient, but we can't get everything we want out of them. So they did the big little thing where you could do 2 and 2 or 4 and 4 or 2 and 4. But it was very specific cores that could be paired together. It was a very it was a not flexible architecture in terms of how you implemented it.
Yeah.
And now with dynamic, they call it multi-core redefined. So you can have a single cluster design with greater flexibility, with or without big little in there, redesigned memory subsystem and advanced compute capabilities. The idea is you have this memory system and fabric that allows cores to communicate directly, and the infrastructure behind the system, the ISA, memory access being the key here, is built to facilitate those cores being able to work together in a single system. So it's a really interesting thing, and they talk about what the potential benefits here are of dedicated processor instructions for AI, self-driving cars, and the ability to. On its outset, it's kind of like, those are all things that your products already can do or promote or talk about. But the goal is that with more flexibility of their core design, you can build parts that are more specifically tuned to those systems. And the improved access to acceleration is also important there. They're building in this fabric will support external accelerators. So if you're an independent company, you want to build an accelerator for a system, but you want to use various numbers of ARMs and different types of ARM processors with it, you can design the accelerator independently. It communicates through the same fabric and memory system, and they're claiming up to 10 times quicker response to accelerators through this new fabric implementation, which is interesting, right? Go ahead, Jeremy.
It just seems really interesting, especially the little graph where they're talking about the extraordinary growth that they've been having.
Up top, yes.
Because, already ARM has the most processors on this planet by several orders of magnitude. Not just like 2 or 3 times, but like 100, 200 times any other competitor.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they're jumping into these markets. Like I was doing the server stuff recently. We've been hearing about Windows 10 running natively. Now they're being able to attach accelerators to it for, well, maybe not HPC, but certainly brute force, large installations. They're opening up all of these other markets. And they're probably going to do it at prices where places that would never consider a forklift upgrade in a decade are like, wait, it's that cheap? And it can do that much?
Yeah. It was funny. I was driving home from a storage place with my stepmother, and I had a phone call with somebody from ARM on the way back, and she said, "Oh, who was that?" I was like, "Oh, so and so from ARM." She's like, "Oh, what do they do?" And I was like, "Well, they basically wrote the intellectual property for every processor that you probably use on a daily basis, right? If your phone, your tablet, your TV, ARM processors are in all of that."
Yeah.
And it's easy to get lost in the shuffle that they're a fairly small company for as important as their development has been and their technology has been. So,
well, and they're also happy to license to anybody and everybody,
and they
helps
do
grow
quite
as
a
well.
bit. Yes, yeah. So another key point about this ARM dynamic release is that it is not, you do not take currently existing Cortex processors and put them into this system. This is for a new core architecture has to be built to develop, to run in this form.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't take a Cortex A72 and slap it into a system like this and it'll work. Now, so what this is, this is basically telling us that there will be new cores announced later in 2017 that will implement ARM dynamic technology and capability. Yeah. Now, what they did say is any cores, say they come out with a A75 or whatever it's going to be called that supports dynamic, those will be backwards compatible, so you can use them in a non-ARM dynamic system if you want to just use standard big little or single cores or whatever you want to do.
Makes sense.
But it would appear at this point that ARM is going to be tailoring their cores for that technology, which will be interesting, right? Because I think if you look at something like what did NVIDIA call theirs, where they did like 4+1 essentially. Yeah, where they did 4 big cores and 1 little core, and the little core is supposed to do like the idle tasks when the screen was off, and obviously that chip didn't end up being very successful in the mobile market, but that was their implementation. It was a good idea, but it was it was asymmetrical, so I imagine things were a little bit more complicated in how they had to architect that CPU. So ARM has the knowledge to adjust these things, and you can see, they're looking at power savings across all this and the ability to, a lot of that memory architecture is going to be how do we transfer threads from a high performance core to a low performance core that maybe has, different cache capabilities, different register capabilities, but in order to save power, all that has to be, coherent. Maybe it goes into separate side caches. I don't know how it's going to work, but it seems like we'll learn more later in this year as well. So Josh did a really good write-up on this. If you're kind of curious about what the technology may bring to mobile devices, we say may because as most of the time when we talk with ARM, we're talking about technologies that will be around in a while from now. We're talking the first products that will ship with this is probably mid to late 2018 would be my guess. And we'll know more, I guess, again at
I'd
the end of
imagine
this year.
you need kernel support as well.
Yes, there's a new ISA. It's ARM v8.2.
Yeah.
Right, so yes, the operating system is going to have to understand this, and there's going to be
You're doing context
different
switching
stuff.
across
Yeah.
different cores, and
Yep, unless they figure out some magical way to manage all that inherently, but I doubt it.
That's really hard.
It would be overly complex and probably not nearly as efficient as it could be.
Yeah.
If the other way around. So. Up next, we have a look at the Lenovo Yoga Books, plural, where Ken did this review. We looked at an Android and a Windows variant of the Lenovo Yoga Book. If you don't know what the Yoga Book is, this is what it is. It's one of these 2-in-1s. It's a yoga style, but it's unique in that it's super thin, like super thin and light. What's the screen size on this? Is this a 10-inch?
Yeah, it's like 10.1.
10.1-inch screen. And it has no keyboard.
Hence the ability to be thin.
Yeah, right. It has a keyboard, but it doesn't have a keyboard.
There's no keystrokes.
Yeah. What
There's
do
no
you
key
call
depth.
this, Ken? It's a Halo keyboard, which means nothing. So what is it really? It's a touchpad keyboard on this guy.
Yeah.
But
It's a keyboard on a Wacom tablet.
kind of. But yeah, and it's not like an LCD screen, right? Like the keys that you see outlined in that photo,
It's just like an LED matrix.
it is. Because I know they can go away. No, so they can go away like but you can't put anything on that screen, right? Like you get one function out of it. Okay. So it's interesting, I don't know. It's a really odd product. Because you have this thing that looks, if you just look at the picture, it kind of looks like a keyboard and a touchpad, but it's capacitive. It is very much like typing on an iPad. There is haptic feedback to it, that it vibrates as in the correct ways as you type. But you are typing on a touch screen essentially.
But there's also a reason why it's roughly 8.5 by 11 inches.
Yes. What were you gonna say about something else about the keyboard, Ken?
It's like the Surface Touch cover.
But they don't really make that one anymore, do they? So that was with the first Surface, right? Where it's capacitive.
Ish.
It works better than you think, but still not like I wouldn't want to compose, novels
Yeah.
on the thing.
The biggest issue isn't necessarily the keyboard. You can get used to that. It's
Yeah.
the trackpad. Look at that trackpad right
Yep.
now.
Sees it.
As Alex.
So this is
look at that trackpad and then try to imagine like holding down the mouse button and click and dragging in something. It just doesn't work very well.
yeah, because the
yeah.
thing on the left is the left button and this
Yeah.
is the right mouse
And it works
button,
fine
right?
if you're just like tapping around doing single clicks on stuff, but as soon as you want to like drag an icon over, it becomes
Yeah.
an absolute nightmare.
Interesting. So the other function of this touch area, as you say on the Yoga Book, adds more notebook-like functionality. Oh wait, no, that was we're talking about the keyboard. But you can also do this on the thing.
Yeah, it comes with a stylus.
What the hell is that person doing?
They're taking notes.
But that's an actual piece of paper on. So where the keyboard is, you can use a stylus
Yes.
with or without.
Yeah, there are
paper.
there are two options. There's sort of the normal stylus tip that slots into the pen they include, or you can take that out and put in a real sort of pen tip cartridge system, and then draw.
Which
on a
is why
piece
they
of
call it
paper.
real pen.
Yeah, you can draw on a piece of paper like that person's doing on top of the touch-sensitive portion, and it still works.
So
What
that way you can
size-
still pass notes back in class.
What size paper is that?
It's an odd size, but they give you a pad of paper that's cut to that
okay.
size, so it's not bad.
So it's
And-
not
and-
exactly 8.5 by 11.
No, it's not.
Well, it's probably like
Wow.
a whatever,
It's-
right? Like if it's
I don't know.
Like- A3?
if it was a standard, it's probably one of the A standards.
Yeah,
Right. Like
it's a bit slimmer than an
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
normal A4 piece of paper.
Yeah, I
And,
think
and,
that's
and
A3.
the notepad they give you is magnetic, right?
Yeah.
So it like snaps into place
okay.
over
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I imagine they sell those separately.
So
but
what is the use case of this, where you are drawing on a paper and it's also showing up digitally on the screen side?
so
So you can have an offline backup.
well that too.
I mean,
if you're a
could
student
you-
taking notes, it'd be helpful to have the paper version as well, right?
Could you flip it around
But-
all the way like yoga the thing, so that way you're just writing on what looks like
I mean,
just a little tablet?
Without seeing
probably.
the screen?
Yeah, yeah.
I think so.
probably.
I think so.
So the issue with writing on the tablet, if you're not sketching or something, is
Mm-hmm.
that you can't you're not drawing on top of the screen, so you don't see what you're writing. Your
Yeah.
hand is disconnected, like using a basic Wacom tablet that doesn't have a screen behind it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think that idea throws off a lot of people, and the paper is sort of a way to help that
Okay.
because you see actual strokes.
Right. It's
It's
it's an interesting, like, I'm not an artistic person, so like there are artistic benefits to that type of implementation that I just can't comprehend,
Yeah.
yeah.
like initially. The idea of taking notes that way, I like the idea of having a digital copy of notes that I'm taking, but I don't like the idea of kind of having to carry physical paper with me
I mean, you don't have
as
to.
I'm going. You don't have to, right? You can just draw on the screen with the non-ink part of the pen, right?
Yeah.
But then you get into the issue of you're writing on a space that you don't actually see what you're writing, and so
Yeah.
it's a little bit, harder to do sometimes. The physical design of the device by itself is actually really strikingly. It's striking how slim it is.
It's less than 4/10 of an inch thick.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to even tell in this shot, but that's a headphone jack, and the headphone jack actually kind of like breaks the line of the bottom of the
Good thing Apple didn't make it.
like it goes below it, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of like breaks the thing. It's available in Android and Windows.
You don't want it in Android.
I don't think you want it in Android. Yeah, I think
the Windows performance is all right enough to where you should just get the Windows version so you can.
what's the
run
hardware in
apps.
this guy? This is
It's an Atom X5.
Okay. Yeah, Atom X5 Z8550.
I mean, performance is not going to blow you away, but you can
No.
run. I didn't necessarily run into any Windows apps I couldn't run.
Right.
Stuff wasn't the fastest, but
Yeah. I mean, for me, yeah, this is a Windows plus OneNote
yeah,
type device.
it's
It's got a huge amount of battery life.
like 10 hours of battery.
Yeah. With our screen at 180 nits, it got 9 hours and 3 minutes with a 32 watt hour battery.
While web browsing.
Yeah. So
Plenty of battery.
I think I took this device with me on a trip as a media consumption device, right? Like put a bunch of movies on it. I think I was going on an international trip. I was like, okay, this will be good.
What kind of screen is it? Is it TN, IPS?
IPS, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not super cheap.
Yeah.
The Windows version's $499.
Yeah.
Android
They
version's only
both-
$30 less.
They both hover about $500. I think they're both $500 directly from Lenovo. This thing would be an awesome device to charge up, throw in your bag. If you're going around to meetings, going around to class, you want to take notes, you pull it out, you take notes, do whatever. If it wasn't $500,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
too
I mean,
much.
if you look at the
to ask.
Amazon page, they show, like here is somebody being an artist on
Yeah.
it. To me, that is Scott would be better suited to talk to this because he uses a Wacom tablet.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and it's very common for people to draw on a Wacom tablet without being able to see
and look at the screen.
Well,
Yeah.
they're looking at the screen while they're drawing. Like to me, that's hard to imagine.
How's the latency like between those two? Is it-
The stylus is fine. It's got a bunch of pressure. There's no latency. I had my girlfriend who's
like it's updating on the
who's-
screen like as you're moving, like
Yeah,
basically.
like it's
okay.
it's completely fine.
I think it's actually a really high-end
Wacom.
digitizer system. I don't know if it's Wacom specific.
I mean, it's the stylus is perfect.
It's thin and light enough that like they're showing you here like reading a magazine or a
Yeah,
book
just
on it, and
holding
you
it
can
with one hand.
absolutely do that
Yeah.
on it. This shot shows you just how damn thin it is and when it lays flat, and it's impressive. And then you get all the normal yoga, type use cases. 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gig SSD, 10.1 inch. So that's the yoga book. Check out the review if you find that kind of compelling or interesting.
I hope they don't give up on the concept, but I wouldn't buy this one.
Yeah, that's fair, right? Like I think
with ARM on Windows, this could be a very interesting device.
to me this would be a great device if it had some semblance of a better keyboard, right? But you can't get a real keyboard and then use the bottom portion for the purposes of the Wacom tablet,
Nope.
right?
I mean, with the stuff we see with sort of modern notebook keyboards and going really thin with like the MacBook stuff, and I forget who else has those sort of key switches that are super, super low profile and don't have a lot of travel.
Yeah.
Some like actually putting a physical keyboard in something maybe a little thicker than this would be cool.
If they had some kind of like Bluetooth wireless keyboard, then you're talking about something else you got to bring with you, where you flipped it over into like the other mode where the Wacom tablet was face down and you just had the keyboard in front of you while you were doing it. That might work, but that's another accessory you have to have. And as long as you can put it all together in a package that's like folds up easy, that might work. But yeah, check out that review. I would agree with it. Like I had pretty high expectations for it, but it didn't quite live up to what I wanted it to be. But I do like the idea as well. A quick update on our Patreon editions here. Cardboard Ryan edited their pledge to $5, up from $3. Thank you, Cardboard Ryan.
Nice
Thank you,
Cardboard
Me.
Ryan over there.
Zach Attack edited their pledge to $5.99. Thank you, Zach. And Cash Me on the Street, how about that? Is a new patron at $3.
Yeah, we'll cash you.
So thank you very much for that. All right. Here's another thing that happened this week. We posted our story of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835. This is a new SoC / mobile platform from Qualcomm coming out.
10 nanometer.
Yeah, coming out. Now I guess they've announced. The Sony announced the phone on it. It's widely expected that the Samsung Galaxy S8 will be using this SoC.
I touched an unannounced Motorola phone.
That's right. Yeah. You were using when you were in New Orleans testing out the Gigabit LTE stuff that was on there. So we've gone over the Snapdragon 835 many times here. I will quickly recap that like the Cryo CPU, the Cryo 280, is the first part using the semi-custom licensing from ARM, which means you take a Cortex A70 whatever, you can modify it and then produce that. Right,
Okay.
as opposed to either taking it off the shelf and taking an A72 off the shelf or building your own custom one based on the ARM ISA.
Right.
You can take one, modify it, and then ARM validates it and lets you use that instead.
So, meaning that they're like the die is different?
Well, ARM doesn't make the die, right? ARM just licenses
license
the IP, right? So what Qualcomm's engineers do is they take the IP, they build the processor, they make changes to the structure.
so
it could be memory system, it could be power management,
Okay.
it could be whatever.
I wasn't aware that they weren't allowed to do that before.
You either had to do it all from scratch or take their part, right? And now the semi-custom is, and I think the one thing that maybe guys like Qualcomm aren't excited that they have to do is they have to give their design back to ARM.
It's like open source.
Yeah, but ARM doesn't have the rights to sell it to anybody else.
Right.
They just have to like approve. I don't know if they're approving of like, yes, you're allowed to produce this part now,
Yeah.
or what it is. But ARM kind of gets access to the changes that you've made that they may
'Cause they have to
integrate into.
qualify it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put it in future parts or whatever too. So that's what the Cryo 280 is. It is semi-custom. It's a 4+4 design, 4 small, 4 big, but they're not telling us what parts they're based on. They're not telling us like, oh, it's A72 modified, A73 modified, whatever it is. They're being very quiet about it. So there's some changes there, and then the GPU are the big changes as well. The Adreno 540, they claim 25% faster graphics. So it's built on 10 nanometer. We went over some of the CPU stuff. Like I said, we've done this many times before, talking about the Snapdragon 835, which is now called the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 mobile platform.
Everything's a platform
Not
now.
just a processor, it's a platform.
Okay.
And it actually, to be fair, if you look at this diagram, where's it at?
okay, but still.
That's a lot of stuff going on, right? And I
It's called
get
an
it.
SoC.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So this is the device I got to use. I went to San Diego and played around with the hardware. It is a Qualcomm reference device. This is not a phone you're going to be able to purchase. This is a device that they're handmade type of thing. They're probably worth several $100,000 a piece. To qualify the part, send these to OEMs to set, proof of concept for how to utilize all the hardware in there. Our system was 6 gigs of LPDDR4 memory. It had the X16 LTE modem, although we didn't have gigabit LTE service. And it's got all the specs there. Android 7 1.1. So the point of this story was to basically do a quick performance preview of what it is. And I say preview very specifically because we don't know how devices will perform once we get a retail product, like an S8 or a Sony Xperia or whatever it's going to be that comes out. This is the first phone with this. It's going to have different thermal properties. It's going to have different software optimizations in there. This is really a spot check for us to see how Qualcomm is living up to its claims. So one of the most important tests that we run, because we didn't have that much time with it, and something that I think was a proof point enough for us to include, if you look at Geekbench, blue is the single threaded, green is the multi-threaded results here. And a couple of things. One, so the 835 is up top here, just over 2,000 points. It is faster than the Huawei Mate 9, which uses the Kirin 960 SoC, and it is significantly faster than the Snapdragon 821. I think we're talking about, let's see, what are we at here? 35% faster from the 821 to the 835. So that's a pretty big uptick in single-threaded performance for something they didn't really talk a whole lot about. Now, also worth noting is that the Apple A9 and the 6S and the Apple A10 and the iPhone 7 are still rated much higher in single-threaded performance.
Yeah, that's
always
such a big difference.
It's a huge difference, and it's always been Apple's calling card, right? Like they're not worried about multi-threaded.
Yeah, but look at the multi-threaded score
On
as well,
especially on the A10, yeah.
yeah.
which is
It's not bad.
It's a 4-core, right?
Yeah.
Or no,
it's a big plus little. It's a 2+2, I think.
Yeah,
2+2,
is
that's what it is.
on the Apple. Yeah.
So also keep in mind there are OS to hardware optimizations and iOS that you can't do on Android necessarily, and so some of that has to be taken into account. But for Qualcomm, it's the fastest Android-based platform we've tested. And if you look at the multi-threaded results, the 835 is faster than everything else that we tested here, and way faster than the 821, which was a 2+4, or was it 2+2?
The what?
The 821. 821 was 2+2. Okay. So you're going to get a big uptick there because you're just doubling the amount of cores, even though some of them are little. But the 835 is 52% faster than the 821. So a pretty big change there. Although probably we would have wanted to see more single-threaded performance to try to catch up to that gap with Apple. Memory results are good, moving up to LPDDR4, slightly higher speeds there. If you look at some of these browser-based tests that are really just JavaScript performance tests, Google Octane, again, look at the Apple results are always very high because of the tight integration of the OS and hardware. But the 835 is faster than the Kirin 960, which is its kind of primary competitor for right now. And obviously, than itself, the 821. It's worth pointing out here, however, even though the 835 is faster in Octane and faster in Geekbench, the Kirin 960 is in a shipping part now. It's been shipping for several months. the Snapdragon 835 is not really shipping commercially in a part yet. So they're ahead, but we don't know how long they'll be ahead for, depending on what HiSilicon and Huawei's roadmaps actually turn out to be. Now, in terms of graphics performance, the 835 is great, right? So Slingshot, 3D Mark, and ES 3.1, it's fastest. Slingshot ES 3.0, it's the fastest. All of our GFX bench testing, it's the fastest. So basically what this means is it has the best graphics performance of any mobile chip. So what do you use that for? You either use it for better VR performance, better gaming performance, or you use it to lower power efficiency or lower power draw while running at the same frame rates that you were running at before, in theory, leading you up to higher bandwidth, or I'm sorry, higher battery life. This is an interesting picture. This is on the right is the 10 nanometer 835, and on the left is the 14 or 16 nanometer 821.
Mm-hmm.
That's a significant difference, and for a cell phone, that's even more important when you're doing that type of stuff. So that's where the 835 is at today, right? So it's an impressive preview of performance. You know, they took us on some tours throughout their different labs, which they have a lot of there in San Diego. We saw power efficiency. We saw VR demonstrations. I got to try a Snapdragon 835 based VR headset with Leap Motion integrated on it, where it uses cameras and sees your hands and emulates the hands.
The sensor?
It was on the headset.
On the headset?
Pointed down a little bit, and I got to you could pick up things and throw them up in the air and catch them. It was good. It was early. It's not super stable. Like the hands were
jittery,
a little bit jittery.
Yeah. Shouldn't have so much caffeine.
The tracking wasn't spot on, and different things.
Yeah.
But it was easily the most impressive demo I have seen since some of the early VR demos of HTC Vive or whatever, where this is really cool. This is what's going to be it. It's clear that being able to see your hands and do things as you would normally do interacting with them is the next step, right? Whether or not they can get it to work and what the software complications are and how you interact with things, because you don't have any haptic feedback.
Yeah, you don't get any.
At least with the controllers, there's vibrations and there's other things.
You're just waving your hands
but
around.
But if I reach to pick up this can and I feel like I have it, I get no.
There's nothing in your hand.
Yeah. And if I crush it, I feel like the strongest man alive, whatever it's going to happen to be.
Crushed it as if it wasn't even in my hand.
It's really cool. I'm eager to get my hands on some Snapdragon 835 devices and see if they actually live up to a lot of these claims. Power consumption is going to be the big thing. Snapdragon 810 had power issues.
Yep.
And they don't want any repeats of that. So we'll see. All right. Up next, Alan, we're going to talk a little bit about Optane.
We are.
Intel Optane SSD DC P4800X. This is an actual product name that Intel is launching.
That they have actually briefed us on, and we're actually allowed to talk about
It's on that picture. The Intel Optane SSD DC P4800X, which is a real product. But this is an enterprise product, not a consumer product for now.
Yes.
And it also comes with Techron and V-Power.
Sure.
It's got a sweet ass
shell
heatsink on it. I'm not gonna lie.
I do like the new heatsink design.
Yeah, it does. So what are we looking at here?
We are looking at this is Crosspoint, in a product that's going to be a retail product.
3D Crosspoint that we have talked about for a while.
For 2 years.
A while. Yes.
Might be more than 2 years by now. Yeah. Which is non-volatile memory.
Okay.
But not flash memory. It's some form of phase change memory that goes way faster than flash. And one of the reasons that help it go way faster than flash is that flash memory you have to erase in relatively large blocks. You have to program in relatively not so large pages.
Right.
There's limitations on how you can do writes when you mess with flash memory. And also reads take a certain amount of time as well. This crosspoint stuff works more just like really insanely fast. You know, it's not multi-level cell. It's just a 1 or a 0 stored in a particular place, and it's able to write stuff in place, like at the byte level. Like if you want to just change 1 byte, you can just change just that 1 byte. You don't have to shuffle a bunch of other stuff around, right?
Yeah.
So the end game there is that it acts much more like RAM. It behaves much more like
Yes.
RAM, right?
Yes.
The speeds are not quite as fast as RAM, but they are much faster than NAND flash.
It's not that they're not quite as fast. They're not as fast as RAM.
Well, they're especially not as fast now, like in this form, because you have to do several hops to get to it through NVMe
True.
over PCI.
So it's worth pointing out that like there's 3D Crosspoint, and then there's Optane.
Yeah.
Crosspoint is the technology of at the chip level.
Yes.
Optane is the implementation of the technology on a product level
In products.
through at this point through PCIe,
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So like
which has its bottlenecks.
Yeah. So if you were writing to RAM versus writing to Optane, like if you had an Optane die, you know, and you were timing, how long does it take to write this byte to it, right? It's about 10 times the latency of RAM.
Okay.
Okay. But 10 times the latency of RAM is still way faster than the latency of trying to write to NAND flash,
Yes.
right? You're still like 100 or 1,000
I
times.
wish they had made these terms less similar sounding. Like if you're having a conversation on the phone, you talk about NAND and RAM.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more confusing.
I know. Well, you could just call it flash. We could just,
Okay, there you go.
Just to make
Yeah,
it
yeah,
easier,
yeah.
we'll just call it flash.
So the point of that is that as we look at this product, as we look at this picture and this spec sheet, it looks like a PCIe SSD.
It is a PCIe SSD.
Do we still call them SSDs? I guess so.
It is
It's
still a solid state drive.
Yeah.
But it looks like a flash PCIe SSD. But
It
it
does.
is behaving very differently technologically.
Yes.
Although at the end of the day, who cares? Like it's super interesting technologically.
Sure.
But the performance and the pricing and what capabilities it offers and kind of pushes forward and advances is really what matters, right?
Yes.
For either consumers or enterprise or whoever.
Yeah. So this thing is not meant to be the thing that replaces flash.
Okay.
Okay.
Meaning why?
You're not going to buy, if you had a server that had, say, 4 terabytes worth of, you know, P3700, which is a flash enterprise SSD, you're not going to replace those 4 terabytes of flash with 4 terabytes worth of this.
Okay.
Oh God, no.
Just because it's more
Not
expensive?
at the price.
Primarily because of cost.
Okay.
But also,
But you could have one sitting in front of them, couldn't you?
yes, you don't necessarily need all of the flash or all of what is in that flash right now running that much faster.
Yeah.
However, it would make a pretty mean caching layer
So
for that stuff.
I think let's start it out this way. Like the Optane SSD, you know, the P4800X, as I'm just going to call it, the P4800X is a product that will exist in an add-in card as well as a 2.5-inch
U.2.
U.2 drive, right? And it's primarily aimed at 2 implementations. One is to expand your memory footprint,
Yes.
and the other is to cache your SSDs,
Yes.
right?
So hard disks. Like just a caching layer for anything
Sure.
slower.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay. So, but it's interesting in that depending in which method you go with is very dependent on what your workload is,
Exactly.
right? If your workload would benefit from more memory, but you don't want to spend because memory is still significantly more expensive than what this is,
Yes.
right? Especially when you get into the high rank densities. This is an option for that.
Yeah, you could have a server that you wanted an entire like 0.5 terabyte database sitting in RAM because you just needed it to go that quickly.
Yep.
Right? Instead of having to buy a 0.5 terabyte or 3/4 of a terabyte of RAM and put it on a server, this, despite the fact that it's like $4 a gig, that's still way cheaper than
Right.
ECC DRAM.
So the
for a
375
server, right?
gig version of this is $1,500.
Yep.
Or so.
Yep.
Right. So one question in the chat already came up: is it limited to by 4 PCIe bandwidth?
I mean, this particular product
Yes.
is.
The implementation was so like your peak bandwidths are still limited by the PCIe
So they're saying is it limited to the by 4 bandwidth? It's actually limited a little bit shy of that.
because of just
I
normal
just think
overheads.
it's the controller
Yeah.
because clearly the Crosspoint itself can go really damn fast. So
Right.
that's not the problem. I think it's just their ASIC, just their physical
I know-
interface between both.
I know Intel didn't talk about it at the event we went to necessarily, but like the DIMM implementation of Optane that
Yeah.
Intel has talked about publicly before.
Yep.
That would be faster than this. It would have a much higher peak. Now, I think they ran into some hiccups with this and complications with it. That's why they're leading with this and not that. But
Yeah.
well,
Well,
that
like
would be what I'm saying. I just want to point like that would be a different interface for Crosspoint.
It would.
Than,
And for something like the DIMM form
would change
factor,
perf.
you wouldn't even have a controller in the middle.
right. It would just talk through the CPU.
It would have to be host managed. Like the CPU, the BIOS, all that stuff would have to understand that it was talking to not RAM, but it was talking to something else, right? Which is still, I mean, that's just going to take some time for all that stuff to line up, right? I mean, I'm sure somewhere in Intel's campus there's some physical Crosspoint DIMMs sitting somewhere.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
just
Yeah.
Can't sell them because you can't just plug them into stuff and have
Right.
them work properly, right? So in that respect, yeah, that would pretty much, take the lid off of any kind of like what seems now to be something that's not fully utilizing, PCIe 3.0 by 4.
Right.
Right. It's getting close. Don't get me wrong. And especially if you're doing things like random access. I mean, this thing, it has sequential read and writes rated at around like a little bit over 2 gig per second, and it has random reads and writes rated at the bandwidth equivalent of the same.
Okay.
Like the same 2 gig per second.
What would that
worth
be
of-
on like a P3700?
For what?
Those random.
Like what would a P37 actually reach?
Yeah.
I mean, they're rated, it's like, I think 440,000 or something like that.
Okay.
But you have to hit a Q depth of like 256 to get that.
Right.
Whereas this, at a Q depth of, I think, 12, it hits 550,000.
Okay. So
And if you go even lower on the Q depth, which you have to realize for a server, or for pretty much most workloads, as we've come to find out more and more often lately,
yeah.
you don't hit 256 Q depth. You don't, like, the Q depths you typically run at on a machine are on the low end.
I would say if you're hitting
Right.
256 Q depth, probably something's broken.
Yeah, it's like your
Database
storage
is
a serious
jacked, or
bottleneck
there's some other bottleneck.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you need to spread it out more.
Yeah.
So the key for not just an Optane thing, but anything that's a storage thing, what you want is you want the stuff as quickly as possible.
Right.
You want the latency as low as possible.
Yep.
And you want it to be consistent. Right. You don't want it just low. If it's low most of the time, but 10% of the time it's, a really long latency,
That's
that would be
bad.
bad.
That's bad.
Right.
Yeah.
NAND devices have to do management and shuffling around of data.
So and that's this slide here shows up to 60x better at the 99th percentile quality of service.
Yeah. So what they're showing is it just looks like this huge scatter of mess of
Yeah.
dots there on a plot, right? But the blue dots that are stretching all the way up to that's like what, a couple of seconds worth?
Yeah.
So that's like
3,000 milliseconds.
Yeah. So that's like some of those IOs are taking 3 seconds,
Right.
like individually. There's not that many of them taking 3 seconds, but there are some. And what's
The
actually
blue
kind of
represents their own P3700.
blue is their own P3700
and the
SSD.
orange at the bottom here is the Optane P4000X.
Yeah. The longest latencies of
Jeez.
the Optane SSD, you'll notice that there's actually white space between the Optane plot
Oh, yeah.
and the
Yeah,
fastest
right here.
IOs of the P3700,
Yeah.
right? So it's actually like the worst for this is better than the best
Right.
for NAND.
I do want to
basically.
point out my favorite part about this is the configuration is an Intel 2U server codenamed Wildcat Pass.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just thought that's even their servers have to have code names.
Sure.
So
And then
Well,
actually
after you've done Cougar Point, where else can you go?
that next chart is very interesting because it's Intel has a habit of doing this to me. I'll be kind of thinking of, actually, I'm trying to do, like, we're actually bouncing this idea. Alex can even attest this. We're bouncing around the idea, like, what if you had backups running to a thing at the same time you were trying to randomly read it? And, like,
Yeah.
how could you possibly do tests that do that? And then here Intel comes along and goes, oh, yeah, we're just doing this write pressure test. So they already have a name for it and everything, and it's already just, like, a solved thing as far as, like,
So this
testing.
emulates a workload going on in the background.
Yeah, you're steadily increasing.
That's what these steps are.
Yeah, you're steadily increasing an amount of random writes,
Okay.
like an IOPS.
Yep.
Like a steady IOPS of random writes. in the background.
Yep.
So imagine you had something else just kind of loading on IOs onto this thing. And at the same time, you have some other thing like, a web server's running on this or something, right? It needs to do random reads.
Yep. So the blue mash here represents the P3700. Its latency,
Yeah, it's a
or
latency.
no, actually, it's random write megabytes per second on the right.
No.
And then its average read response time on the left.
Yeah, so that scattery blue line that's kind of climbing
is
up
the
there.
increase in latency as the write load increases.
Yes, but it's the latency of the reads.
Of the reads, right.
Yeah.
Whereas the orange here at the bottom is the Optane.
Optane with that same stair-stepped
same
random
workload.
write latency going on over time. It just doesn't care.
So even at an early state, it's 8x better.
Yeah.
But towards here at the end, when you're up to, you're say you're writing 750 megabytes of data
Per second.
to this drive, which is a lot, to be fair.
It is.
And your antivirus decides to kick off at just that
Let me go
moment.
over
Sure.
here. Yeah. Over here
And
on
your
this side.
backup job just sort of kicks off for some reason.
Yeah. But
So,
the point is
the
that
average latency is 40 times lower on the Optane drive.
yeah, because the Optane doesn't really care that
Yeah.
that other stuff is going on in the background because it doesn't have to do all of the extra shuffling around of data that Flash has to do.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff makes the drive busy doing other stuff, right? And that means that some of those reads have to wait in line. They have to take extra time to get serviced. So, again, it's a pricey thing, but in this case, one of the examples Intel showed was this the server example. It's actually like the next one down, right?
But
So
this
they
thing
had,
here?
they had a
Yeah.
server with 3/4 of a terabyte of RAM in it, and it was running a thing where the database all fit into RAM. So the database was small enough where it could just be running all in RAM. And they said, okay, well, what happens if we just replace this with drop the RAM down to 128 gig? So I think it was 64 gig per chip
Yep.
or per Xeon, right? And put 4 of these P4800Xs in there, right? So that thing, I'm pretty sure that server ends up being, first of all, cheaper
Yes.
than buying
That's kind of
3/4 of a
the point.
terabyte of DRAM,
Yeah,
right? It does take a bit of a performance hit in transactions per second. So it's only going to go 80% of the speed of the all RAM server.
Yes.
In
it goes from
transactions per second.
1077 transactions per second to 870 transactions per second.
So not as fast, mind you, sure. But they noticed that in other workloads, they actually got an improvement in performance, and that was matrix multiplication, which is where you're taking numbers from different parts in the database and trying to do multiplication of them. Well, in the server example that had all RAM, think about it, half of your database requests had to hop across to the other CPU's RAM. Mm-hmm. So you're going across NUMA, right? You're going across the interconnect
He's my
between the
favorite.
CPUs, right? Whereas in the Optane system, either CPU just goes straight via its PCI to Optane. And the way that they were able to optimize just how their driver works for this thing, right? For this kind of overlay. It works like a hypervisor, which I think is the coolest part of it. You just install this
the
thing.
Intel memory drive technology.
Yeah. So you're not reconfiguring anything else underneath it. It runs as a hypervisor and then boots your OS, and it just sees what looks like RAM.
It's an extra piece of software that will cost more than the cost of the
there'll be
drive.
some licensed. You have to license it.
Right, where it's like they called it like a hypervisor, but it's like the most bare bones version of a hypervisor you could have, right? Where it's basically it's helping map the Optane drive as memory.
Yeah. Basically, that's what it's
essentially.
doing.
Yeah.
But the comparative cost and the ease of installation, that's a reasonable expense.
Exactly. That's where
You just pop her in and away she goes.
That's why they're excited about this stuff, because they're like, look, we made it work this way. You can do this. You can just plug it into the server and just have your server run this other way, And they had other people up there talking, and they had, VMware, like ESXi 6.5 has support for it built in already now, because they've been working with.
vSAN.
Yeah, there's other stuff with support for it. So in other words, it's aware that it is a faster tier than Flash, and it can use it accordingly if you just basically point it to that thing that's plugged into the system. So in other words, you don't have to completely reconfigure your VMware server infrastructure. You just kind of add this thing, and it can speed stuff up for you. Right? So it's
pretty cool.
Um,
Now, obviously, for the majority of our audience, we're kind of waiting for what the consumer version of this will be, which they've said there will be one.
they
they
did
didn't go into
at
any
the
more
event. They
detail
said
than
that there will be a consumer version of it.
Yeah.
And we're not allowed to give details on that. But at the end of my post, I decided to do a history lesson,
Okay.
which is that this Intel SSD 730, which was a SATA SSD,
Yep.
it was based on the Enterprise SATA SSD from Intel. It was like same exact form factor, everything. Just had a different label on it and different firmware, right? And then they came out with the Intel SSD 750, which is
Yep.
the PCIe NVMe one,
Yep.
which was based on like the P3500.
I would say this is great, but I think asking people to pay $4 or something, or even $3, or maybe probably even $2 per gig
That is high.
for an Optane drive at this point with
Yeah, price that next to
Questionable-
ECC
let's-
RAM though.
well, sure.
Yeah.
But let's say questionable impact on consumer workloads.
That is true.
right. That will be a more complex discussion to
That
have.
is true. Yeah. Your
Right.
software really has to be aware of this thing to take full advantage of it. If you just use it in place of, even like a Samsung, if you have like a 960 Pro or something in your system right now, that's a damn fast
Yeah.
NVMe SSD,
Yeah.
right? Most of the time, your system is not waiting on that drive to do anything.
Yep.
You're bottlenecked elsewhere.
Yeah.
You're bottlenecked on CPU, other stuff, right? So moving to this, you're probably not going to see that big of a thing. Now, if you're doing a bunch of like number crunching stuff or database kind of stuff, or you're basically one of those pro users that's kind of pushing the terms of enterprise, on your personal system as far
Right.
as like what your workloads are, then you'll start seeing differences. But
We'll have to see then. We also
yeah.
had a little bit at the end here on Optane memory, but I think we'll save that discussion for
it'll have
next
to be
week.
for next week.
Yeah, we'll save that discussion for then, and we'll roll through some other things. Quick side note before we get to the next story. I did, in my trying to get away from traffic in Columbus, drove past the Amazon Central Ohio data center.
All the AWS.
Yeah, because it was funny because my stepmother had said, as we were driving past, she's like, oh, this is the new Amazon warehouse. And as we were getting closer to it, I was like,
Awful big cooling towers
I
on
was like,
that
that
warehouse.
building doesn't look. As from a distance, I said, "Oh look, oh no, I see. Oh, you're right. I see all of the like the what do you call the bays where the trucks would pull up to it, right?" And as we got closer, I was like, "No, those aren't bays. Those are vents. Those are all vents coming out the back of the
all
building."
cooling.
And there was like no labeling on the building. There was nothing like that. And then as we came around the corner, I was like, "Oh, look at all the power infrastructure that they built right next to it. Yeah, this is a data center. This is not a shipping warehouse. Right? There's no semi trucks here." She said, oh, "Okay, that explains it." Like they were very hush hush about like the stuff they were putting in it, right?
Data centers are always
Because she works for a CenturyLink, right? And so they were one of the providers helping get them all the setup they needed, but they would not talk about the interior at all.
Of course.
They were like, "You bring us the lines here, we'll handle it," right? Like you don't get to come inside.
Yeah.
The D-mark is on the outside of the building. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. And it was funny because when you walked, literally there was like maybe 4 cars in this place.
That's it.
And it looked like a military establishment. It was neat to see just to go by the outside. All right, so let's go through the rest of these things a little bit quicker. BitPhoenix announced a did they actually call it the Portal?
That looks so cool.
I
Look at 'em.
see you.
That looks so cool.
That's really funny. Did they actually call it Portal?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
It's probably
literally the name.
licensed.
It's probably not licensed.
It's not licensed. There's no way.
God, it's so close though.
It's really cool looking.
It's so
this-
close to the
it is.
robots.
For people on the audio version, this is a chassis that is. It is basically a computer case. Is it micro ATX? Looks like maybe mini ITX.
ITX. Sorry.
I'm just waiting for the sides
ITX.
to pop open
So
and
it's
start
mini-
shooting you.
It's mini ITX, but they clearly just like wrapped a plastic thing around it that makes it kind of look like the turret
turrets.
from Portal.
Yeah.
And they have it a black version. They have a white version. I love how it comes out there, right? Like,
You just need like a linear actuator there to.
yeah,
Yep.
maybe not that fast.
That's really cool looking.
Yeah, it's neat. Do we know anything about price on this, Jeremy, or is it?
Not off the
Look at
top.
what the
It's
graphics card
$140 rather. There it is.
Is that the GPU up top? I thought
Yeah.
that was. I was first thought. I thought it was
It's
a
reserved.
CPU.
It's
cooler.
reversed.
So that whold thing is bigger than I would have thought by
Oh
just
yeah.
looking
So
at
if
the
you look
picture.
up here, You can
So it-
see the video card slot.
Yeah.
upside. It's upside
That's
down.
a decent sized case then.
It's mini ITX,
it's
but
a fair
it's
size.
fairly deep.
Yeah.
$139. It looks like the product page is up on Newegg. That's pretty
It's about
neat.
10 by 16 by 16.
That's a pretty,
I'm
pretty good
cutting
case.
percentage.
Pretty neat.
That is pretty
I've
cool.
seen one review of it. The review could have been done better.
Yeah.
We'll say so. You should get one in for Sebastian because either this thing is
like
as
that poor-
amazing as it looks, or it's actually a
Sebastian.
real pain in the arse to work with.
Hmm.
And I'm curious which.
Poor Sebastian has a lot of cases.
No, we don't have any
A
cases.
lot of cases. Oh, we're running out of cases?
Ken
Yeah.
just volunteered.
All right.
Does that have ports on the side?
Where do you see that?
It does.
It's like in the that one right there.
Oh, yeah, right here. Yeah, so
does.
that would be the cable that attaches to the motherboard. I would assume it'd be a fairly lengthy cable if you're going to be able to slide everything out without having to disconnect stuff. Yeah. But,
Oh, and
This
there's a
seems wrong.
window
Like-
on the top.
yeah, I've
That's
seen some of that.
interesting. The top is a window.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you
can
can
see
see your
the
GPU.
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
That's a good idea.
Does sound like Josh is here now. All right. Very cool. Also up, Ken. Ooh, Ken has two things on the podcast.
Slackers.
Oof. Yeah, what's up with you guys?
Oh.
Sprint, Qualcomm, Motorola. We were just talking about this a little bit earlier, demonstrating gigabit class LTE networks at New Orleans, and this is that Motorola device in a weird box.
Yeah.
Did they say it was using Snapdragon 835?
Yep.
They did. Okay. So
Yet to be announced device.
a yet to be announced device.
We have a hard
showing
time
it.
getting that number and speed test on like copper connected
Yeah.
gigabit.
So this is
No
this is an LTE device. It's not running on Wi-Fi, and it was in a stadium. Were there people in the stadium at this point, or an arena at this
People
point?
are filing in for like pregame stuff at this point.
And this is on Sprint's network.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it was probably
So explain that part for me real quick, Ken. Like there was Sprint had an interesting position for gigabit LTE in the US because of their prior WiMAX
Yeah.
stuff, essentially.
So with the WiMAX deployment, they got the license to a whole bunch of spectrum in the 2.5 gigahertz range, which is way higher than most of the spectrum that you normally see for cell carriers. Something
Okay.
like AT&T and Verizon run on like 1700 to 1900 megahertz for their current LTE rollouts.
Right.
So this is very high frequency spectrum, which gives Sprint a couple of advantages here. They can do super small antennas as compared to the other guys because antenna size is inversely proportional to frequency. Yeah, math. So they can do large antenna arrays and small deployments and deploy those where they need them in cities. So they can have a box that's doing 4x4 MIMO, which is what enables part of this, and they can have microcells that they can just put on top of buildings as they need them, as they see load increase,
Okay.
which is a nice thing. And they also see a massive benefit in carrier aggregation, which is the idea of taking multiple LTE bands and connecting to them at the same time to sort of reduce load upon the network and increase throughput, which we're seeing the throughput part here. So in, I think it's 100 of the top markets, Sprint currently has 3-channel carrier aggregation turned on,
Huh. Interesting.
which kind of puts them far and away above a lot of the other carriers who just don't have the spectrum next to each other in the band to do this. You could do carrier aggregation with spectrum that isn't immediately next to each other in the same range, but it's just much more difficult of a problem.
Do you have to have different antennas and stuff for that?
Yeah, you have to have
Okay.
different antennas and I think different radios even, maybe. I don't know.
okay.
I think you have to have multiple radios to be kind of on those two frequencies at the same time.
Gotcha.
But Sprint has, I think it's like 160 megahertz of spectrum in the 2.5 gigahertz band, which is,
It looks like they say 204.
I think that's their total
okay.
allocation.
Okay.
I think it's like 160 in 2.4 specifically.
Okay.
And an LTE channel's 30 megahertz, I think, currently. It's something like that. I think it's 30
Okay.
is about what they're using. So they can do...
Does it do HSPA as well?
No.
Damn it.
This is an LTE thing, and then Sprint with the legacy 3G networks because of that stuff.
I love imagery like this
Yeah.
where they talk about like 2.5 gigahertz. What's the HPUE? High performance user equipment,
All right, so disadvantage is 2.5 gigahertz.
limited range.
Range sucks,
Yeah,
right?
Well,
Because
it's less than lower frequency.
it's less than everything else that you would use for LTE.
Okay.
Well, it's less than everyone else.
Okay.
So, in order to overcome this sort of disadvantage, the carriers who are using 2.5, because Sprint isn't the only carrier in the world that's doing this. SoftBank, who owns Sprint now, but SoftBank in Japan,
Convenient.
is kind of the pioneer of what they're calling HPUE, high performance user equipment. So essentially, the idea is it's a sub-spec of LTE standards that allows your device to go into higher power transmit, which helps the distance that the
Yeah, that's the limit. Is
the-
talking
yeah,
back
that
to the
carries.
tower.
And the limit is actually on upload.
Yeah.
So HPUE turns up the radio for upload so that you can contact the tower from further away.
Yeah.
And they say, if you look at this diagram, that it gets you in about the same range that something like 1900 megahertz, which is kind of where the majority of LTE sits.
I still find that the most amazing part about cell phones. You don't really think about it, but like your cell phone has to talk to that tower
Yeah.
2 miles away or a mile away.
Yeah. And that's the
From
limiting factor.
from this little thing.
Yeah,
It has
which
to
you
have
don't
the
want to
power
use.
to get back.
You don't want to use a lot of power.
Right. That to me is still like
And that's why your
And I
battery
mean, air
goes
is
crazy
certainly a
when you're-
conductor, but it's not an amazing conductor.
I feel like my dad when he would say like, I don't know how your fancy technology works these days, but whatever, right? I feel like that when I said that out loud, but it was like, how does this send it all the way over there, right? Like I can barely understand how the radios on that talk to Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
you know, but to think that it's going through things and through walls and all that crap, and they have to account for all that is
really
impressive
good
to me.
signal processing.
Yeah.
So the downside of HPUE is that it has to be implemented by the device manufacturers. They've seen some adoption. The LG G6 was announced at MWC last month or earlier this month, I guess. It's the first device that has HPUE, but they say there'll be more. This Motorola phone we saw has it.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if
Clearly.
something like the Galaxy S8 had it.
Cool.
Seems to be something that people are implementing and jumping on.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So essentially, their demo revolved around showing us 3 of these Motorola phones simultaneous. If you scroll down, I think I have a photo of the speed test. Yeah. So they wanted to show sort of distributed load across the network as opposed to just pure throughput, because there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do with 600 megabits per second on your individual phone.
Yeah.
But these technologies enable everyone to get faster speeds as more people connect to the network.
Yeah, that's one of the things that the gigabit push from Qualcomm and others has been really is like the more higher performance modems you get on the network, the better the aggregate bandwidth of the network can be in total. So as people buy like Galaxy S8s and those proliferate out through the networks, like people who are on S7s and S6s will see improvements in their bandwidth.
Yeah.
Just because of the way the management systems work, right? So it's an interesting benefit to all users, right? The highs get higher and the lows also get higher in these implementations.
Yeah, so they were showing 3 of these handsets, and they were adding up to about 500, 600 megabytes a second, depending on kind of when we started the speed test and what servers they were hitting. And they let us mess around with all of that, which was pretty cool. And again, it was a production network. If you somehow had one of these devices in the Reno, which there are no devices with 835 out,
Right.
but if you had a device that had the 4 antennas, which this has for 4x4 MIMO, and an 835 or something with the X16 modem, which is only the 835 at this point, I think, then, like, in theory, you would have been able to do it in that arena. And it was a completely production network, and they were showing it off. The people with Sprint phones who were in the crowd were still connecting to that same cell site that they set up. So speeds got a little bit slower throughout the night as more people connected to it and were using data, but there wasn't really sort of a big hit there. It was apparently this is what Sprint likes to do when launching network technologies. They like to show it at things like sporting events and crowded areas to kind of put some.
I'm trying to remember who did it in Wembley. and I think it might have been Sprint.
Well, probably not Sprint and
Yeah.
Wembley.
That was
SoftBank,
paired
maybe.
with Voda or whoever it was over there.
Yeah.
I mean, the big
They
grab
were
thing
again
is
showing off.
that is the torture test, right? So
Yeah,
if
because,
you're gonna
I mean-
test it, you might as well test it there.
It's like the bane of my. It's like, yeah, I want to be posting all these cool pictures of me at these sporting events, and I can't.
Yeah.
Luckily,
wanna see
luckily I stuck my way into the press Wi-Fi at the UK's Rupp Arena, so I could still do that.
I want
but-
to see. Their next test to be like in the convention center at CES.
Yeah, no, that's the torture
Well,
test.
I mean,
that would be the one. Yeah.
That would be
Since-
the test.
since we've been going to CS, like my first one was in 2010,
Yeah.
somewhere around 2012, 2013, you could actually start to use the cell service, and it's actually usable in
Yeah.
that convention center now. I don't know what these networks did, but like
I think what ends up
it might have been just user equipment, to be honest.
Well, what ends up happening lately, like they'll bring local
Trucks.
Temp
local
sites.
cells like temp sites, but then like you have good signal, but the issue we'll run into is like your internet is still crappy because like the uplink from their
but
site is like
it's-
running out of bandwidth. Basically.
Honestly, like that was the case in like 2010 and 2011,
Yeah.
2012 as LTE started rolling out. But like I don't see that anymore at
yeah,
CES.
man, last CES wasn't that bad.
Yeah, like you
I don't
can
remember like
We had trouble getting signal at that hotel, but I don't know if it was the hotel.
yeah.
Like
But
I went
I
back and I had my
remember-
hotspot at the
Experience?
window. No, I'm talking about at the hotel.
Oh.
I remember having to like drop your phone, like turn off LTE on your phone and drop down to 3G or 2G to even get a data connection.
Sure.
In that place.
Yeah.
And
It was
and
back in the good old days.
I think the proliferation of sort of higher performance and better LTE modems has helped that.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I'm more excited about this than I thought I was going to be. The gigabit class LTE stuff.
Good, because you're going to hear a lot about it.
Yeah, I know. but like it's coming to the U.S. You know, there was the event in Australia that Maury went to, and I was like, okay, great. One carrier in Australia is going to have it, whatever. But now it's Sprint. T-Mobile's talking about it.
AT&T's.
I think
talking about-
Verizon is, yeah.
I mean, they all have to be like.
they're all going to be. It's just a matter of how much they're going to charge me.
This
Well,
was
and
the
Telstra will talk about it. They won't roll it out for a long time.
Telstra is selling it
Telstra
today
sucks.
Yeah.
in Australia. Like it's available today. You can
On
buy
that
the
mobile
mobile
hotspot,
hotspots today.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sprint's demo was the first demo
In the US.
in the real world of gigabit class LTE on a handset. Telstra was only showing it.
They were
on
showing
the
only the
hotspot.
hotspot. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Couple of quick notes here on the Vulkan multi GPU support.
there's
this is
a
something
lot
that
of updates. to
there's
this
a lot of
article.
updates to this. Jeremy, can you explain any of this to me?
It's none of it is confusing whatsoever.
No.
Update. Are these in time order or numeric order?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're in time
Start
order.
at the top.
So
okay.
long story
okay.
short, this is where we figure. Or no, sorry, it's
Yeah, they go
the
bottom up.
latest is at the top.
Yeah.
So we have figured out that as far as implicit multi GPU on Vulkan goes, it's not tied to Windows. So you can pretty much pull it off on Windows 7 and 8.1. 10, no problems whatsoever. Explicit, not implicit, but explicit. The ones we all like to watch. Pretty much the same story. And then there's the unlinked multi-GPU, the MDA, which is sort of the Vulkan native one, is going to be interesting because it's backdated all the way. It doesn't matter what you're going to do unless you're running an Apple, in which case they're a little bit upset about Spock for some reason.
Apple doesn't like Vulkan.
Apple does not like Vulkan at all.
It competes
You guys
against
can't
their
see it
metal
on this,
stuff.
but I do want to point out, Alan, you can see on the screen that the Amazon ads correctly picked
Learning
up like
Vulkan.
Learning Vulkan books over here on the
Vulkan
side.
cookbook.
Yeah.
Vulkan cookbook. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So,
All right, so-
and
so-
of
so
course, Linux is it supports it. It actually does a better job because like we're still watching some of the drivers catch up for DX11, DX12,
Yeah.
but for Vulkan, Linux is pretty damn good and has been for a long time.
So is the deal that we thought it didn't work in 7 and 8.1, but it actually
That
does.
was the thing.
But it will. But it has to be like people have to do work.
Yeah.
To make
but
it work.
if it was LDA, then pretty much originally the thought was it wasn't going to work at all. there was some miscommunication. I think some of it on Vulcan's side, some of it on the press reading it,
Okay.
but they did not make it clear. The unlinked MDA, graphics card agnostic, they didn't care. It can just provide multi-GPU. But if you want to do the LDA, they started out sort of saying, no, it's going to be Windows 10 only, and then, well, it's turned out with a bit of work, don't worry about it. You'll probably be able to pull it off as far back as Windows 7.
Right. But like the vendors have to add support for it in their drivers.
That's
Like it's not like
kind
it's
of
not
the
like it's
problem.
some easy thing that they just we got to flip this one switch in our driver and make it work. No, they actually would have to like do some coding work to like make it work with the older driver model that's in OSs before Windows 10,
gotcha.
right?
But it's the
So-
old Windows Display Module, whatever that
I would
acronym was.
imagine it would be more work than it was to implement under Windows 10 drivers model.
Well, you're going to have to, and plus you're going to have to need to go back to an almost extinct operating system.
That too.
At least as far as Microsoft is concerned.
Although I mean 7 is still in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it is.
as far as percentage used currently.
Largest market share.
Oh, that's the outdated table. Don't show that one. All right. Well, there you go. Your update.
I appreciate all the marks, like the strike throughs on that
Yeah,
table.
this one. Like
It's
no
dedication
no.
to accuracy.
Well, we thought it
No.
was this, but no, it turns out that's not that.
Then it was sort of supported, and well, no, it's an equivalent as long as you program said equivalent or find a driver that supports
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
All right. Let's see what else we have here. Corsair quickly. The new 10 keyless K63 mechanical gaming keyboard.
Yeah, so if you don't want to spend 270,
Yeah. Okay. what
maybe
else
you'd
you got?
spend 80.
That's less.
80 is definitely less. So they did chop the numpad off it. So,
Oh.
You know, you're buying less those cherry switches.
Yeah.
yeah. And they are
You're basically
cherry red.
buying less of everything.
Yeah.
Well,
Apparently,
you're buying
this
cherry
is
red. It's got a red backlight, so you can't do by key. But
Oh, it's just only a
mean-
red backlight. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$80 pretty good.
Corsair,
$80 ain't bad.
But $80 is way less expensive than most of these other.
It is apparently made out of plastic as opposed to the aluminum that every other Corsair keyboard is made out of.
Oh,
So
it
it
is?
is a
Correct.
bit cheaper, but
but apart from that, it runs on the same software. So if you're used to one,
I wonder if it still fits in the
Go for
lapdog.
I would suspect so. Yeah,
'Cause it looks like
I'd
it's
be
the
shocked if it
same.
didn't.
It looks like that cover.
I'd be disappointed if it didn't. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. It looks like it's following the same form factor, just made out of plastic on the lid
Yeah.
instead of brushed aluminum.
Looks like
But it makes sense 'cause
Amazon
you've got-
has it for $79 on pre-order.
All right.
So you've got umpteen billion gaming keyboards on the market, which are mechanical switches, the vast majority of which start at 100 and go up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if you really want one, but you don't want to spend the money, and plastic, I mean, do you really want to beat someone with your keyboard? Maybe it's best it was
Kinda.
plastic so you don't actually hurt them.
there.
This one's plastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a K series.
It's only the
like
it's only
another
the
brand of Corsair keyboard.
it's only the top plate of the
Yeah,
the other ones that are
that's the
that are
strafe.
aluminum.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not. I mean, I don't think it really adds that much to the strength of the thing.
Nah.
All right, a couple of other things here. We have the EVGA updated SC17, or this is new.
4K G-Sync, mobile G-Sync.
Oh no,
60
no,
hertz.
this isn't
It's an
updated.
updated.
SC17, 17-inch 4K IPS G-Sync panel, so 60 hertz G-Sync panel. So I think that's probably the major update here. I still really liked our first look at the EVGA SC17, and I know based on what I saw at CES, they actually have another couple of updates coming down the line
Well,
with this. So
this has a 1070 in it. The SC17 you reviewed had
Was
980M in.
nine-
Yeah, it was a 990
Oh, okay.
mobile.
Yeah,
okay,
this
so
is
this
not the
so this
mobile.
is it's got an unlocked 6820 HK processor,
So I
Core
think that's
i7.
the same.
Yeah, probably.
And the 1070 that isn't a mobile version, but it's a mobile version.
Well, yeah.
They're just
It's a
branded the same.
slightly different.
It's essentially same perf level.
Yeah.
So that's good. It is a 3 display output. If you're a multi-monitor person, as Scott writes here, 1 HDMI, 2 mini DP, $2,799. Very steep, very expensive. $2,800 for the SC17 with the 1070 with NVIDIA G-Sync 4K display, but they do have apparently a $250 off rebate on that guy as well.
Be a bargain at half the price.
I kind of like its understated, like, styling
Yeah.
to it.
Just a matte finish black
Yeah.
laptop.
Right.
It's built well.
It is. Yes. Yeah. The SC17 that I've
Feels
had
solid.
here is definitely that. So
It's not the ROG with the exhaust pipes coming out the back.
no,
and
it is not. No,
tail
exactly.
lights.
It's
Yeah.
significantly understated comparatively. So
I wish they
nothing
could figure out some way to let those panels run at higher frames per second if you dropped it to like 1080p or something. I mean, I know it's not
Yeah.
a realistic thing, but it just,
there. Maybe one
you
day.
know.
Just not today.
Because
So you got to go
probably,
the other way. You got to have the 1080p upscale.
yeah.
That you can do, but not reversed.
Here you
yet.
go. Here's your monitor. Our final story. The LG 32 UD99 is a FreeSync 4K HDR display for $999. 95% DCI P3.
Which is good.
It is very good. Factory calibrated. It is FreeSync 4K. So, this is if you have an AMD
Yeah.
GPU at this point. Or you could obviously use it at static refresh rate with anything.
Yep.
It is $999. It's for pre-order from B&H, and it has a $100 gift card apparently at B&H Photo as well. I really, really want to get hands-on with these HDR displays. I have now seen the G-Sync HDR monitor enough times
Yep.
to realize that I
One
really
was enough.
Yeah, but the
One of them was enough.
Pat made a new demo for it that's actually very compelling, kind of showing
yeah.
the difference in the color space as well as the brightness adjustments that really help it stand out. And so I'm ready for the HDR monitors now. They can happen anytime.
Yep.
I will say, I think this one, did they mention the spec? I think maybe on B&H Photo they mentioned the spec.
They never mention the refresh rate anywhere.
No, they don't.
People assume it's 60.
And they don't do the RGB either.
It's got to be 60. My one concern
probably 60.
is that it's only listed as having a 350 candela per meter squared brightness.
Yeah.
For an HDR
Yeah,
panel?
but
Yeah.
That doesn't make any
Is that
sense.
actually
can't be.
honest? Is that?
I don't know. It's early. I don't know.
That's like the opposite
Okay, it
of
looks
an
like they
HDR
have
panel.
peak at 550.
Okay.
Okay. That's better.
Typical at 350. So maybe that's better. The response time is 5 milliseconds gray to gray, so that's a little high.
It's
Maybe
an
for
IPS
gaming
type
side.
I mean,
It'll be IPS.
Is that typical for IPS?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And since
HDR is HDR10.
and this has to support LFC, right? Because it's FreeSync 2.
Does it say
Does
FreeSync
it say
2?
FreeSync?
It's FreeSync HDR.
That doesn't mean FreeSync 2.
Well, it's FreeSync
Come on.
and
I
HDR
haven't
with a
heard
star.
anything.
But that's gotta.
I know, but it doesn't.
I mean, I'd agree with you, but I don't know.
Should be.
Yeah, I would say should
is
be.
it 2 or 2.5 for
2.5.
LFC?
2.5.
I seriously doubt
Actually,
that panel.
I think they got it down to 2.
Okay.
I think they got it down to 2.
Because I could see that panel going
be
down to
fair.
30. I doubt it would go down to. What would it be?
I don't know if, I don't
Yeah.
know. It just says
25
AMD
and-
FreeSync technology. It doesn't say anything about FreeSync 2.
Now, and monitor dealers
So-
are getting worse and worse about releasing actual specs.
Yeah.
But don't worry, there's already reviews.
I wonder if they
on
added
their
it to because AMD's got that that cool display page that lists all the.
I think it was on there. I think I saw that was on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think this was originally announced as part of FreeSync 2, but I could be wrong.
No, they didn't have any product announcements. When I first heard about FreeSync 2, they did not have any product announcements, like actual things. Because that
I'd
was
also
that
like to
was
see it in
NVIDIA's
person to
big
measure
drum
those
they were
bezels.
beating at CES was that
Yeah.
we actually have a product we can show you, that type of deal. But
Let's
all
see.
right, you're gonna look at that up real fast.
Yeah, I'm looking that up. You can.
All right, go for it. We're gonna get into
UFC
our
Central?
hardware, software
No, it's
picks.
on AMD's site. There's they have a list.
Oh,
Like they have a
right, the
database.
FreeSync 2.
But does it show anything for FreeSync 2?
I doubt it.
All they have is an Acer and a Samsung for a 32-inch.
But
It'll be
listed as
there. You
FreeSync
just
2?
need to spend 3 hours searching.
Oh no, I don't know if they do But they give you the range for all the panels that they have on in their little database, which is why I was going to look it up there, but it's not there.
Yeah. All right, let's get into our hardware software picks of the week here. Up first is mine. I just ordered this on the way here, which is a tempered glass screen protector for the Nintendo Switch.
Why did you order that, Ryan?
Because I had scratches on the side of my Nintendo Switch.
On the screen?
Link gets you excited, does it?
It's actually not on the screen itself, but it's on the on the plastic that covers the bezel as well.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Because your dock is scratching it. You got a
Because
bad
my
dock.
dock is scratching.
Yeah.
Did I get
And
a bad dock?
It's that
or,
soft
did
dock
they,
doesn't.
or did they design a bad
It's
dock?
a soft touch coating, right?
Mine didn't do it at first either.
It,
I think it's like, how careful are you taking it in and
I
out?
think it's a design defect with some of the docks
But what's the design defect?
that like it bulges out.
Honestly, Ken, I think the issue is just that it's plastic that's not soft touch, and what's on that device
It's plastic.
is soft touch plastic. It's like a coating that's over the plastic,
Yes,
right?
I guess.
If you rub it against anything else that's a regular plastic, it's going to scratch it.
What do you? We're talking about the screen.
No, he's talking about the plastic on either side of the screen, right?
No, that's the piece
But
of glass.
it's the same screen.
It's the bezel
the
of
I'm
same.
saying the black border.
Like the part that the black border is also covered
Oh.
by the same coating
I'm surprised
as
that-
the screen.
Oh.
It's dumb. I actually ordered this and I ordered a case today while we were driving home.
yeah.
from
I need to get
Columbus.
like a case.
This is $10.99 for a 2-pack. I don't know why people sell crap in 2-packs because I just always
Because
end
you're
up.
gonna scratch the crap out of the first
No,
one.
I
and
put
you
the
want
other one
another
on a shelf.
No, you want to know why, really? Because people have a lot
Screwed
of trouble
up.
installing.
Oh, well, that I would understand because I always put the second one on a shelf and then 2 years later go, why did I keep this? And I throw it away. I bet I've done that for 5 phones or whatever that I've had this with.
And
but
here I thought they were rap fans or something.
Yeah, you get
I'm more impressed that this thing already has like close to 1,700 customer reviews
On
and
the screen
5-star
protector.
rating on it as well for $10.99. So if you have a Switch and you care about it, and I actually don't know for sure that this covers the bezel all the way.
I think
looks like it
it
does from
looks
the
like
picture.
it maybe does.
It looks like it does.
I mean, a lot of people have been buying these.
But if even if it doesn't, I really don't care if the bezel gets scratched. I just want to make sure I don't accidentally scratch like the actual part that's covering the screen.
Yeah.
Anyway, so well, that's it. That's what I got. AM Film tempered glass screen protector.
AM film. I am.
AM Film. I am Film. All right, who's up next? Jeremy. What do you got?
All right. So if you can't figure out a way to have fun with a vacuum chamber, I'm not really sure I want to know you. But this guy has figured out a really easy build. Frankly, the hardest thing to do is find someone who's risking a run-in with the law that's throwing a air conditioner or a fridge out on the yard, because all you need to do is harvest a compressor from it.
No.
Other than that, the parts are less than $30.
Yeah.
And you can sit there and watch a vacuum chamber at work in a giant bell jar.
Scroll back and forth here so they don't.
You can
have my-
get like a legitimate vacuum pump from like Harbor Freight for pretty cheap if you're in the States.
Yeah, but it's still $100, $200 easy.
Yeah, but you can also use it to fix the AC on your car and stuff, so it's handy.
Well, you could also do it with this thing.
I mean, one trip to the
But look, there's a light switch on it. That's pretty badass.
yeah.
Switch.
Yeah.
One
Well,
trip to the auto
hey,
shop and
cheap
paying
build.
someone to refill your AC is like, the cost of the vacuum pump, basically.
Yeah, but it's an oil pump, so
Yeah.
it's cheap to run. It's easy to run. It's a great build you could do with your kids if you wanted, or just if you're not used to working with electronics. There are useful purposes to having a vacuum chamber as well, but this is something that you could use for other builds. Or you could just screw around with it with, as he does, a pop bottle and a bunch of shaving cream just to see what happens when it hits vacuum.
Is that just a block of wood that's the base for the chamber?
Well, he's got a silicone cutting mat sitting there and a bunch of
Okay.
whatchamacallit around
Just trying
it.
to figure out how he was sealing it because it would just suck through the wood. if you let
Just
it.
the cheapest amount of silicone
Yeah.
sealant you can find.
Ooh,
But
candy.
yeah, it's a silicone plate that it's on there. Like, I mean, come on. You could eat your
Oh,
cookies,
no.
or you could do that.
Well, you can still eat them.
But he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't put any peeps in there.
Yeah, you want to see
Yeah,
a peep?
peeps should have been in there. You're right.
So it's a little fun. Teach your kids about science, or just to screw around because it's hilarious.
Hey, teaching
It's
kids
going to
is about
cost you
science.
$30 in an
Over there.
afternoon.
It's shaving cream.
Oh,
All right.
Always wear your eyeglasses when you're doing this, because that glass jar could
yeah.
implode.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And now you can teach your kids about the difference between exploding and imploding. It's fun.
Okay. Somebody didn't
Al?
delete.
What link are you?
Was the Josh one in there until just recently? Is this what you picked this time?
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
picked this time.
Alan, what do you got?
So a few weeks back, I tried to pick a cable that was supposed to be a Type A to Type C cable that went like 5 gigabit, and my pick was a dud.
Mm-hmm.
We figured it out during the podcast, but it
Yeah, it
was
said USB 2.0 in the title.
yeah. So it's like, hey, I ordered this. It looks like I finally found one of these, and it wasn't. So this one I have ordered, received, and tested,
Okay.
and it does go. It's a full-blown USB 3.0, like to Type C, Type A to Type C adapter cable.
Cool.
So if you have any of those,
Is it really that
external-
short?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's only like 6 inches long.
That says it right in the title, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I was looking for a short one because, like, you know, things like the Samsung T3 and other external, like SSD type things tend to come with a really long cable, which I think is silly. Like the T1 came with a really short cable. T3 came
It should
with
come with both, I would agree.
it should come with both, but some of them
Yeah.
only come with a really long one, which you
Yeah.
got to keep bundled up and you try and travel.
Yeah,
with
and
this
if you're
thing.
just putting it next to your laptop on a
it's
table
just,
or something,
it's just
yeah,
annoying,
you're
right? So for the longest time, I was looking for just a short, stinking cable that actually went the right speed, and that's one.
$8.
$8.
Before we move on to our last picks, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love the suggestion. Order this item in quantity, because it weighs very little.
Yeah, well, they are charging you $3 for shipping on this. It's not a Prime
Yeah.
thing.
To
so-
minimize total shipping costs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quick mention before I miss it: Richard Johnson became a new pledge on Patreon for $5. Thank you, Richard. for
Oh, I
that.
thank you, sir.
Who do we have left here on our picks? Do we have anybody?
Just, it's Ken.
Is that Ken with headphones?
No, that was last week.
Am I missing anybody then? You still had it on here. Your bear dynamics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was last week.
Well, I took Maury and Josh
Ryan and I
out.
were
You
because-
did take Maury and Josh off. Okay, so there you go. Those are our 3 picks.
Okay. Ryan and I
Deal
didn't
with it,
even hear
everybody.
the podcast last week, so we
Yeah.
didn't know.
All right, everybody, that is going to wrap up the show for us for this week. PCPro.com/podcast is where you can find all the back episodes and URLs to subscribe to the podcast in MP3 format or on YouTube, or find the video downloads or anything you want to do from there. We welcome you. And again, PCPro.com/subscribe if you want to sign up for our mailing list when we do live streams for the podcast or any other events. I know we're planning one with Intel next month on storage side stuff, so you'll want to sign up for that for sure. Because we always make people give away if they're going to give away stuff if they're going to do a live stream with us. So that'll be worth noting about. So with that, it is very late. We will finish up the show. We'll see you next week. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
And I'm Alan Mamontano.
Bye.
And this has been Masterpiece Theater.
Mike arm.
Your Mikey Mike arm?
Mike and Mike arm.
Oh,
I
I
wish.
thought you named him.
It's like
Mikey Mike and the funky arm. Funky. All right, everybody. Sorry, no after show because I'm really tired from moving all day and I need to go home and go to bed. I apologize.
We all need to go home and go to bed.
Yeah. So
No worries, Ryan. It's been a day.
It has been a day. It has been a day. All right, everyone. Have a good night. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching.
See you,
Bye.
Jeremy.